This is Marshal Eaton of the Two Staff Town Watch. Come out with your hands where we can see 'em.
Ah, good morning. Won't you come in? We've got a pot of tea brewing.
Hello and welcome to the LARP News podcast. My name is Dave, and today we are going to be talking about the Marches, who are a personal favourite of mine. And we've got a couple of guests. If you'd like to introduce yourselves, Sonya, would you like to go first, maybe?
Yes, I'm Sonya, as you've just said. I play Hattie, who is an independent character in the Marches. I don't have a household.
Interesting. I don't know what that means, so we'll get into that. Marcus, do you want to go next?
So my name's Marcus. I play Timothy Kroll, who's one of the Marcher generals, Tusk's 4th Army, Best Army, from House Bridger in the Marches in Bragisland.
Right, and Marcus, describe how I tracked you down and the description of how everyone pointed you out, because it was amazing to see people's response.
There was a post that went up on the Marcher page from yourself, Dave. And I got tagged in it by George, who plays Hook, a very cool character. And he tagged me in this post. And the post reads, I'm trying to get in touch with a Marcher. I think he's a general. All I know is he's got magnificent legs. Yeah.
I knew it would be something to do with the legs.
It's always the legs, right?
Yeah. I love some of the responses as well. Well, that narrows it down to 4, and I was just like, "What? Like, is this like the no marches skip leg day basically? And they're all just like legs of like tree trunks." It was hilarious. But yeah, thank you very much for joining me, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Right. Why don't we start with maybe why did you guys pick the Marches, and what were your kind of preconceptions before joining, and was anything different having joined the Marches?
Who's going first?
I'll jump on this one if you want. You can have the next one first, Sonia.
Yeah, go for it.
So I joined the Marches, must be knocking on sort of 3-4 game years ago now. I honestly forget. Prior to joining the Marches, I actually played a year in Dawn, just over a year in Dawn.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I was a Dornish Earl as well, with a name that required 2 breaths in the middle to say. So yeah, I was kind of, and that was the first ever LARP I'd ever done. I'd come into it completely kind of out of the cold. From kind of a bit of a tabletop and a wargaming background. And I kind of had this preconception of the Marches, obviously being a Dornishman, that was pretty negative. They were just, mud grubbing peasants, and, they've got no style and no class, and they all wear brown and they're all a bit rubbish. They're like us, but worse. And the reason I went to the Marches is at the time I was doing 15th century reenactment, kind of since gone more into late 14th century stuff. So I had a bunch of the kit, kind of basic kit for the Marches knocking around. And something I always try and do at LARPs is if I'm playing a character where there's, death might happen, I just have a basic set of spare backup kit in my bag all the time. And the backup kit I had was doublet and hose. So sweet, that's perfect for, basic Marcher kit. My Dornishman absolutely got mullered. Just got absolutely cleaved into a puddle by some Jotun on a skirmish that went very wrong.
But I'm sure you got plenty of glory out of it, right? Which is the important thing. So
yeah, glory, yeah. Yeah, we got smoked on that one.
If you want to make some glory, you got to crack a few nobles. Do you know what I mean? So
I'm stealing that. I'm stealing that for uptime.
Crack as many as you like, Doug.
Yeah, we should go in. I'd love to talk to you about some Dornish Marches history, which I bear in mind, I come into this as a complete idiot, right? So I'm going to ask some very basic questions later on, but definitely want to put a pin in that and ask about the relationship between the Marches and Dorn. So
you may have noticed, but the Dornish and the Marchers don't like each other very much.
Hey, I resent that remark because I was married to one for a year, and we all know how well that went.
Yes.
But no, so I died in Dawn. I had some basic Marcher soft kit. I went and bought a big floppy hat from Honest Jim, and I kind of toddled off to God and went, right, how the hell do I do a character? I knew nothing. Bear in mind, I knew nothing about the Marches. And the computers they've got in God are an absolute, no pun, godsend.
Hey, they were top of the line 20 or 30 years ago, so...
Well, it was more that, it was like an afternoon skirmish, so I had some time to just sit around and sit down with the wiki in front of me. And I went, right, I want this Marcher. I don't know if I'm going to play him, for more than the rest of this event. I just want the most Marcher that ever did March. So I picked a territory at random. I picked Bragisland because... I'm originally from kind of Norfolk and grew up in Lincolnshire. So I'm pretty used to bogs and fens. And I kind of went, right, what's Bragisland's big thing? Eels, eel farming. Sweet, I'm an eel farmer from Bragisland. That'll do me. And just kind of rolled out and ooh-ah'd my way around.
Fantastic. So I like the way that you kind of went into it, not really knowing exactly what to expect out the other end, just to go and experience it through a set of circumstances. And you've been there 3 years now. I think that's fucking cool, basically.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I just wasn't expecting the community that I walked into. I came out of Dawn where I had a lot of friends, and there's no knock on Dawn out of character. Out of character, they're a great bunch of people. They've got a really solid community and a strong aesthetic. And there's some good groups in there. The Marches it just blew my mind. It was next level. The kind of community spirit that we had, it felt very real in a way that I've not really experienced at LARP in any other sense.
Sorry about that, Leia. Sorry, carry on.
From an external point of view, I feel that like when I'm interacting in the Marches, I definitely feel like everybody knows everyone. And like when you go and ask for somebody, people will kind of point you in the right direction. It's a weird, it's fun. It's like, it feels like a village, right? Like, rather than a group of individual groups looking out for their own interests. It's a very communal vibe to the whole thing. Let's not get away from the original question. Sonya, would you please like to go through maybe why you joined the Marches and your kind of expectations before joining?
See, I can't remember why. I can't remember exactly why. I just did. There's I know that because I was in Maelstrom before Empire, and then I did Empire, and my first character was ill-advised because everybody told me don't play an expat. It's not a good idea. But I decided to play a winter marker in Varushka because my group wanted to play Varushkans, but I wanted to play a Wintermark person, and everyone told me don't do that, and I did it anyway. And it was really interesting, in fairness, and just a train wreck of angst. And then she died horribly in battle. And yeah, I thought to myself, I don't want this amount of angst anymore. I've been LARPing since I was 17, and I was renowned for playing the angstiest angsty characters who ever acted. And I kind of went, I have anxiety disorder. I don't need to feel stressed all the time in my hobby. So let's try and create characters that are less angsty. And I tried in the past to create non-angsty characters, and all that happens is you create a cheerful, happy-go-lucky person, and then they hit the field of play, and the plot angst and external angst happens to them, and they break. So I decided that I wanted to create a character who was who had a normal amount of sort of hardships or upsetting things, and had dealt with them in a healthy way and moved on. So basically the sort of emotionally robust character that I wish I was. This idea came to me. I wanted to go for a sort of a herbalist apothecary thing, and I tried that in a previous game, and it hadn't really worked out, and we left that game. So I thought I'll give that another go, and I thought, yeah, Marches seems about right. When I was first creating my Wintermark character, the Marches in the initial brief didn't appeal to me at all. in the way that it was described as being dour and sort of cynical and gloomy. And I thought that's, it all seemed very doom and gloom. But by the time I came to create my second character, it had been fleshed out a bit more, and there were more pictures of people actually in play. And it seemed, it seemed more like the sort of place I could be at home. I didn't know anyone really in the marches. I knew one or two people, but not very well. And I just turned up. I decided to play an independent character. I thought I've got enough LARP experience. I can pull that off. Don't recommend it for a newbie playing an independent necessarily. Although if you're gonna do that, do it in the marches. Independent would be someone who doesn't have a group. You just turn up on your own. And by the time I turned up out of character, I had several offers for groups that I could camp with or play with within 10 minutes of arriving there. Within 5 minutes of play, I had 3 group offers already, because that's just the kind of place the marches is. You sit down and I go, oh, I'm a bit nervous. And they're like, oh, yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah, come and join us. It's great. And that sold me on it 100%. I thought, yeah, I made the right choice.
Sonya, you said a bunch of stuff there that I found really interesting. One, the kind of idea of like maybe projecting some of your own personality, some bits you do like, some bits you don't like onto a character. I think we're all guilty of that sometimes. And it can be quite a refreshing moment when you actually do notice those and can use LARP in the right way, which is to kind of maybe develop some parts of your personality that you want to develop more in the right way. I think that was a really nice way of putting it.
Also, I did that deliberately this time because I as I said, LARPing a long time, and I tried playing characters that are very much not like me, or characters that are more like me, or characters that focus on certain bits. But this one was like, I want to play this to see what that's like. And the first time I played Hattie, when I timed out at the end of the first day of playing Hattie, I went to bed. I walked off the field thinking, I feel relaxed and happy at a LARP event. This is weird. Because before, any experience of a LARP event was like you're going to bed going, oh my god, that was so much drama. And this was an entirely different pace. And for a while, I was worried that I would be bored. But it's just a gentler pace with this one. But I think you can play a full-on charging headfirst into everything character in the marches as well.
I think one thing that I've been lucky in having, I don't know whether I'm lucky or not, but I've had some really fun interactions with marches, like throughout my time at Empire. Like ever so often I'll bump into like some crazy character coming out the marches who is incredibly generous and welcoming and really fun to RP with, and just very distinct. Like I remember I spoke to a couple of Scarecrow gentlemen in a bar one night, and that was just like a fun, when you leave Empire, you're like thinking about what happened in the weekend, and that's one of those things that comes up where you're like, well, that was really fun and really special, But one thing I would say about the marches is, as a good signifier of their kind of general civic responsibility, would be military training. At time in, there's always like on Friday night, I see a whole bunch of marches get together and they practice moving as a block of people together and fighting as one. And I think that's a really nice little metaphor from an external point of view of what it looks like to be a marcher.
I think in that sense, not only in the military, but in the sense of, as you say, civic responsibility as a community, we are really well squared away. And I think so much of that has to do with the people who aren't necessarily at the top of the totem pole in character, doing an absolute ton of organization out of character, so that when we all hit the field, everything's set up, everything's squared away, it's all organized, there's no panic, no rush, and we can all just have a really good time. And, I know, again, there are other groups or other nations where that is the case, but I've never seen it as much as in the marches and the military training. That's Chris Terry's brainchild. He plays Will Talbot, Used to be a general, is now. Yeah, he played. I'm foreboding. Timothy's having.
Yeah, that's a very gangster thing to say. He was a nice guy. You know what I mean? Like, and he's still walking around.
Yeah. That he, as I understand it, he was one of the first people to really push that. There's also Rachel Westra, who played General Flowers and did die. My fault. Kind of got her killed. My bad.
It's you.
I was in charge. You know that skirmish. That battle where all the Balstons carked it and everyone died in the Bill block. That was my first battle in charge of the Bill block.
I love that. I love that first time out. It's an absolute shit show.
I fucked that one up bad. Like, I'm like, I think we're here. We were over there. I think the enemy are over here. They're over there. Next thing you know, we're being flanked from like two sides. I'm like, oh, fuck.
I'm so sorry, everyone. We're all going to die.
that was literally me. And everyone was so lovely about it is the worst thing. You know, I put a post up saying, hey, guys, afterwards, like, hey, guys, really sorry, made a mistake. Really enjoyed role playing with you. I hope you at least had a good death. And everyone was so lovely about it.
My friend Sam had something very similar happen to him. So I'm sure you're not alone in.
No.
I get the feeling on an awful lot of skirmishes, like, yeah, you can do certain things and you can. Yeah, but a lot of the times it is rolling the dice on what PD have for you past the gate, right? Like sometimes you're going to roll a natural one, and that's just how it is, you know?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, but sometimes it's totally your general's fault.
Yeah, sometimes it is.
I'm a little bit. My first character's death, I totally blamed it on my general all the time. It's only years later that I've gone, well, maybe it might have had something to do with the fact that I was armed with a tiny buckler and a one-handed axe, and my tactic was to charge headfirst to the enemy, and maybe that might have also had something to do with it. But it was also totally my general's fault, so no. Yeah,
I think courage is a virtue, but so is like wisdom and vigilance are also virtues. So, you know, we have to kind of get a combination. I just want to talk to you, like, from, because there might be people listening to this that have never played. What sort of, can you kind of maybe give me a description of like Marcher customs and dress and general Filton? You touched on like the dour side of what they are, but I don't know whether that necessarily plays that way in the field.
So I reckon that that's possibly an impression that other nations have of the Marchers and stuff, particularly if you get on their bad side. That it's kind of, it's a bit like it's all very in character. It's very insidery. So you put your own family before you put the rest of the village. You know, oh, her down the road. But then if somebody from another village criticizes her down the road, then you're like, oh no, them from that other village. And then if someone from another territory criticized that other village, you go, hey, you can't go around criticizing Upwalders. And then if someone else criticizes the Marchers, then the whole Marchers band together and oi, you can't criticize them. You know, and it's all in terms of it's all defined in a kind of us and them bit. And if you're on the right side of that fence, then you're all right.
I think I've seen both, really. I think there's a kind of, because I can't remember what happened. I asked a question or something that was, the guy looked at me like, what? I think he was like, you know, sometimes people can lead into questioning or for whatever reason, and it can be like, are you asking for this reason or that reason? And immediately it was like a stone wall face like met me by having said just the slightest wrong thing. Whereas other times I've been there and they've just been like incredibly welcoming and friendly. So I think that's kind of something that really plays in the field, is that we stand together, even if we might disagree with each other behind closed doors, you know?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the
Marchers have, sorry.
The best description, kind of as a joke, but it fits really well, I've ever seen of us as a nation, is we're all happy medieval villagers, but it's the village from the Wicker Man.
Yeah.
And that's that's something I really like to lean into. Actually, is that I'm functionally a fairly simple bloke from a simple farming life, but there's old traditions and there's old traditions that are not for outsiders to know about, and there is an undercurrent of darkness and mysticism, and it's quite spooky really with the marches, and I love that we play that up sometimes when we choose to scare the outsiders.
There's also a fatalism to the thing, right? Like in death you get turned into mulch is something I hear a lot, right? Like the idea of someone disappearing because they did something wrong within the marches, and the militia having no idea who did it, and everyone going, I don't know who you're talking about, who were just murdering someone 5 minutes earlier, while they're trying to drag them off in a sack. Like that's definitely the vibe. Like, and I really love the Wicker Man reference, by the way.
See, there's that side of things, but my character doesn't get involved in any of that because she's a total Cinnabon.
You're the super wholesome side.
I represent the wholesome part of the marches, except occasionally when she decides to be a bit naughty. But there's, I don't know, because there is kind of the dark. There are parts of it that you can see in a dark, sinister, shadowy way, but we're not Varushka.
That's a very good point, though, right? Like, because I think there is like maybe bleed from different nations into other nations, and I think there are similar, I'm not saying identical, similar vibes of some Marcher and Varushkan traditions, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the same in real world cultures as well, that you get some similarities in different cultures. But I think the thing about marches, the word, if I had to pick one word for marches, it would be pragmatism. It's not, I mean, what you say is, I don't know, did you say cynical, or when you were talking about the mulch, fatalistic?
Oh, fatalism is more what I mean, rather than cynicism.
I would call it pragmatism, because marches are basically like, but the thing about the bodies becoming mulch is actually that marchers have a very strong connection to land, and land is a sort of almost sacred thing for them, and not that they not in a religious sense, but in an emotional sense, I guess, because they marched from dawn to establish their own country, and they claimed this bit of wilderness, and they put the work in to turn it into rich farmland after the sweat of their own backs. And so for them, land is important, and they are part of the land, so the food that comes from the land feeds them. So in a way, they grow out of the land, and then when they die, they go back into it. So the land of the marches is the Marcher people, and the people are the land. They're connected and they're one, and that's represented in some of their traditions. It has something in the puppets, but I'm not going to tell you what, because that would.
But also there's a distinction as well. Like, you don't worship the land works for you, right? Like, there's a like, you're masters of your own destiny almost, right?
Yeah. Oh, you know the song on Ilkley Mor Bartat?
Yes.
Yeah. I think that kind of sums it up quite nicely, right? Because you die, then worms will eat up thee, then ducks will eat up worms, then we shall eat up ducks, then we shall have eaten thee, which is kind of gross and sinister, but also it refers to how everything just it all just keeps going.
It connects, right?
We're all part of the land, and the land's part of us. So that's how. But it's not seen in any kind of. I mean, it's not a kind of a la-di-da poetic way. It's also in a very real and very down to earth sense. So as I say, it's pragmatism, and you use, and the bodies feed the land, and if you've got something, there's the song about Marcher Growbag, which is the one that everybody knows. You're going home in a Marcher Growbag.
Yeah.
If you listen to the verses of that's all about don't worry, you won't go to waste. Because actually,
a March's idea of something horrific and terrifying and spooky and just wrong that you get in that. And you know, if March's had horror films, then that would be a tomb, like in Highguard, like being preserved, the body being preserved in a tomb forever is just like, oh God, no, that's just wrong. Oh,
Yeah.
you're separated from the land. You don't get to go back into it. That's horrible. And there's a lot of when people die in battle, it's a terrible tragedy if you can't get their body back. But you go with a little bit of Marcher soil in your pocket and some apple seeds so that a Marcher apple tree can grow on top of you if you die in enemy lands. So
I did not know that. That's cool.
Yeah, I think Sonya raises a really solid overview there. I mean, if I had to kind of boil it down to a saying, it'd be "From Earth we come, to Earth we go," which you'll hear in song. You'll hear it in Marcher Lasses, Marcher Lads, and I can never remember the official title of that. But it's "From Earth we come, to Earth we go," and she's exactly correct when Sonya says that the land is important to us, but not religiously. Wintermark, obviously, their big thing is people, right? Three peoples, one nation. With the marches, it's about the land. And I actually had a very interesting argument with a Wintermark general at Kingstoke Wassail, which is just the most beautiful player event. That is the epitome of marchiness for me.
Kingstoke Wassail.
But we were drinking quite late at night, and we were just kind of thrashing out what was going on in the war in Bregisland, which is where my character's from. And my character has this very strong opinion that no, we shouldn't give it up under any circumstances, even if we're coming back later to take it back, because it's the land that matters. And she was trying to advance the point to me, but yeah, if we retreat and take it back, we can, save more lives and lose less people. And like, bollocks to the people. It's the land that's important. It's the principle of the thing.
And also there's almost a responsibility in death that you're giving back to the nation, right? Like your death is going to be productive to the nation. Even in death, you're still giving something back, right? And you're disappointed that you can't do that if you don't get the body back.
I think you say productive to the nation. I'd just like to clarify, no, to the land.
To the land, right? Right.
I mean, in terms of getting the body back as well, it's really interesting. The kind of the finest thing that can happen to the marches. In the marches, we believe in animal reincarnation. And Highguard tried to diddle us about that with the heterodoxy, and it didn't go very well for them. It's just one of the ways that the marches is very different to everyone else.
Well, hold on. Are you saying that, like, within the marches, there's a belief that you can come back as an animal, and therefore animals can come back as people?
Not everyone.
Oh, okay. We're getting into controversial ground. Good. Just to clarify, everyone, controversial warning. Okay, try not to hit the forums too hard after this. Relax yourself.
Yeah.
Take a minute. Let's listen to Marcus talk for a second. Okay.
Sorry.
Long and short of it, as my character understands it, if you are a shithead in life, you will reincarnate as a really crap animal. Like, a vermin animal, like a crow or a rat or something. And you've basically got to kind of do your time there before you can reincarnate as a human, following the way of virtue and going through the labyrinth. It's considered kind of part of going through the labyrinth if you're a dickhead. Whereas if you're an amazing person, the best thing that can happen to you is you reincarnate as a tree.
Wow. Sonya, would you care to respond?
My character's husband is a priest, so I've had a lot of this kind of talk about it, and it's like, well, maybe that's the case, or maybe it might be that part of somebody's essence and their memories are what goes into the tree, while their spirit actually goes into the labyrinth. So it's actually more like an echo of the person. So that's another take on that. But out of character seems to me to be a watered down version
of it, of them going, oh yeah, well, we want to keep our traditions, but we also don't want to piss off the church, so we'll
Yeah.
go this way. And Hattie, being the sort of ultimate fence sitter that she is, absolutely goes, oh well, if we can make everybody happy, then yeah, let's go for that one.
Do you know what, I haven't heard that before, and I absolutely love that as being an in-game thing. I find the religious game is something that I viewed at with almost trepidation and fear, like looking at it from the outside, because I was like, oh, what if I say something stupid, then I'm lynched for being a heretic. But it's really refreshing to hear people kind of understand their nation's role and understanding of the way. And it makes me think of, like, you know how Christianity seemed to kind of morph to, like, in Nordic lands where Christianity came, Jesus was like a axe wielding, armor clad badass, right? Like a very different Jesus to the more Central Europe way. And I think that's in an abstract way, that's kind of what you're saying there with the March's understanding of land and the way, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, like, having a chat with a priest of every different nation is something that's on my bucket list. I've done it with 3 or 4 different nations. It's just amazing just to sit down with someone with a drink and go, what is your, how do you perceive the way? Oh, that's different. We think of it like this. And you get some amazing backstory from that.
But I'm with Dave on the fact that the religion game is terrifying. And that it's one of the things that out of character has me going, wait a minute, are we the bad guys?
Oh yeah, no, don't. I've spoken to PD. We're definitely the bad guys. Just
we are so the baddies.
100% the bad guys.
It's the censorship thing. The you say the wrong thing and you can get executed for it.
Exactly. That's why. But that adds to this kind of like, and bear in mind, like, I'm talking as a player that potentially might be coming back as a priest or maybe converting to, like, I find the religious game interesting, like on a philosophical level, So, but what I like is sometimes the hushed tones in a bar when it's dark and you hear someone just kind of telling you stuff that you're like, wow, you're really you're really bumping across that line, and there's a reason why you're keeping your voice down. I don't know, it adds a lot of kind of drama to the mundanity of talking about philosophy,
On the other hand, if you don't say it in a hushed voice and you blurt something out like Hattie does, and then everyone in the room stops talking and looks at you, and then you have to backpedal furiously, because not that that's ever happened to me.
No, obviously not. Can we briefly talk about the dress code and how you would recommend players maybe source some gear and how you kind of approach your characters? I should say costumes are always a bit funny. Let's call it kit, right?
Yeah.
Soft kit is the term.
Okay, who wants to start?
I can jump in because mine's actually pretty short. Much like my trousers.
Those legs, though.
So, I was very lucky when I came to the marches that I was already a medieval reenactor. Now, we have in the past as a nation had a bit of a bad rep, which I think is ill-deserved, for being, oh, you've got to wear reenactment kit, otherwise you don't fit in. And that's complete rubbish. Mm-hmm. But the marcher aesthetic is strongly influenced by 14th and 15th century medieval Europe. In the same, in especially England, in the same way that the League, for example, is influenced by Renaissance Europe, or
right.
Wintermarks introduced by, absolutely, or Wintermarks influenced by Saxon clothing and kind of fashion. The marches, that's our wheelhouse, is late medieval England and Europe, and there's a few different trends. The marches fashion and game fashion at Empire is really fascinating. There are in-character fashion publications like The Looking Glass. And you do see people modifying their clothes, their character's kit, because their character is chasing fashion trends.
That's insane. I haven't heard of this before, but that's the coolest thing. I love that.
The Looking Glass is run. It's run by 2 lovely Leaguish ladies. 3 lovely Leaguish ladies.
We've had too many Leaguish people on recently, or people that are about to join the League. I'd love to talk to them, but maybe after a few episodes, because honestly, it's like League Bazanza at the moment. It's awful.
Oh, mate, they get everywhere.
I mean, they're all right, but they're a bit too la-di-da, a bit. Well, I'm not saying they're like the Dornish, but they are a bit fancy-like.
Aye, and their beer tastes like piss.
I have to say that's good to mention. Marcher beer is some of the best you'll find. Like,
Yes.
it's really good. Like, as someone that is an aficionado of intoxicating myself, I really find you got to stop in at the Marches and grab a beer or two. It's fantastic.
Get yourself, one recommendation I'd give any new player, get yourself down the Mandowler's Arms, which is the Marcher bar, the Kingstoke bar, early
Is that the-
on Friday.
Is that the big one that's like, I think it's a white tent? Is that the one that I'm thinking of?
So it's a white tent because the big green one is our community hall, which we'll touch on later, I'm sure.
Yeah, sure.
Um,
Remind me about that if we don't bring it up.
Because that's pretty important for Hattie.
Yes. Well, it's important for everybody. The community hall is the Marches, but yeah, that's the.
Oh God, yeah. But yeah, the man, get yourself a pint of the dark at the Mandowlers because it's just the best. It's sublime, and they normally only have like 2 or 3 kegs, and it goes super quickly. It's one of my favorite things about Empire is I can swap fake money for real beer. So what I'm actually wearing, they look like kind of football socks. They're not. Those are my trousers. They're called split hose, which is a very common medieval garment. And it's basically like trousers, but there's no kind of crotch or bum to them. You just wear them like trouser sleeves. And you can wear them rolled up, where they tie onto your underwear, or rolled down like I do, where they show off your legs. And then all I'm wearing is a simple kind of medieval shirt. And then the two most important bits of my kit, at least for my money, my livery, which is the big red and yellow short sleeve coat I wear over the top of my shirt, which is in my house colors. And that instantly identifies to any marcher who I am. That tells them that I'm from House Bridger. And if they know who House Bridger are, they know that we're from Bragisland. They know that there's quite a few of us. You know, it informs who I am. It's much like, because we're descended from them, a Dornish heraldry.
I love that as an attitude towards kit as well. And I think this is something that might be intimidating as a new player when you look at more experienced players and you can't quite put your finger on why other people's kit fucking rocks, right? And one thing that you'll realize when you talk to a few players that like do stand out is because they are in the world, right? Their kit is part of their character and their identity. And I think that's a really nice way to approach in what could potentially be seen as from the outside as being very dour or uniform, right?
Absolutely. And we're all about color in the marches. We are a riot of color when we're all gathered together.
Yeah, flowers.
Almost nobody in the marches just wears brown. We kind of got the reputation, the brown ring nation. I can't think of too many people that just wear brown. Everyone's got... You've got colour. You're colourful. The first thing that I think of when I think of you is colour.
That's weird because I have a big brown skirt.
It's because do you know why it is? I think it's because my mind goes to face. What someone's face look like? There's hair, there's colour, there's life. I'm like, oh yeah, they're wearing clothes too. They've got kit on.
Well, this is green in fairness, but it's reversible. And the other side is also brown.
We'll talk about accessorizing and stuff as well because that's super
important.
I
was about to say this is like I think a lot of people can feel very generic in whatever nation I'm talking about here as well. I think any nation can feel guilty of this. I think accenting little bits of your kit that make you is part of your it makes me get into character more. It makes me understand my character more, even if it's bits that I get that aren't necessarily that I'm consciously trying to get to develop my character. The kit can then develop my character, so it's not just a one-way street, you know.
For sure. And in terms of accessory for my character, Timothy's big thing, I've got a giant white floppy hat. It started as kind of one of those pilgrim hat kind of jobbies, the sort of 17th century kind of things. Because it's felted wool, it was starched. It's been rained on God knows how many times. It's now very floppy. I always wear a feather in it because I like feathers. They look cool. And I kind of alternate whatever feather I happen to find per event as they get damaged. And it's covered in badges. Hob, who runs Hobbs Fancies on Traders Row, an ex-marcher, Dan Towles, wonderful craftsman. He makes just the best pewter badges, both medieval copies and also stuff that has come up in play in Empire. And my hat is covered in those badges. So I've got things like I've got a bill badge, which is because I serve in a bill block. I command a bill block, so I wear a bill badge. I wear a sun in his splendor, which is one that my in-character wife gave to me before we got divorced. I've got the boar's head of the tusks, which is the symbol of my army. So it's all things like that, things that real people would wear. That's the kind of thing that I try and put into my kit is when I'm at Anvil, when I'm portraying Tomothy, I'm, portraying Tomothy as a real person as much as I can. So why has he got that? Well, it's not just something that I saw in a shop and thought, well, that looks shiny. For me, that's something that's connected to my character. And if someone asks me about it, I can talk bollocks at them for 10 minutes and we can have a really good time just chatting bollocks, which is, at the end of the day, one of my favorite things about LARP. You sit down with someone else and you both pretend to be people at each other.
Yeah, I think this is a great. You raised a good point there. Was the idea of receiving gifts and giving gifts is something that can really help out yourself and other characters, right? By giving them something, even if it's on the surface of it is a token item. The moment can mean a lot, and when you put it on, it means something to you and can help with your RP, right?
Absolutely.
I got a pair of gloves that were given to me by by Hattie's friend in the Brass Coast, which she out of character hand knitted in Hattie's in green and brown with leaves on it, and like it's so a Marcher style. So it's someone from the Brass Coast making something Marcher style because she knows Hattie will like it. That Brass Coast character then died, and like Hattie just always wears, brings these gloves with her to Anvil and always wears them. And whenever someone compliments her on them, she goes, "Oh, my friend Ramira made them for me," and then she gets a bit tearful.
Yeah, I love that. I really touch wood. I haven't had anyone give me a gift then die, but it's usually the other way around, isn't it? Where you receive a nice piece of kit and then you get murdered. So
new kit curse.
No, that's if you buy a load of new kit out of character. That's not if.
Oh, is that different? Is the curse broken if it's given by another person? Is that how it works?
And the point is that you put either a load of resources or out of character effort into assembling a new kit, and you finally get it right, and then your character dies because it's sod's law.
I think I'm a fairly secular guy usually, but even I am starting to genuinely believe that the new kit curse is real, right? Like, I wonder if we did a poll of all Empire players, do you actually believe in the new kit curse? I wonder how many people would be like, yes, it's very real, and you should be very careful around it.
It's the new kit curse and the gods of LARP weather.
Yeah.
Who, for some reason, Matt Pennington has somewhere down the line pissed off.
Oh God, yeah.
I did
the weather gods, but
I did get Andy Raff to actually admit as much. He actually does have a secret weather machine, and he's a truly diabolical human being. So, we're all a big fan of Matt and what he's done and the entire Empire team, but just be wary around them, folks. There's an evil force to them. So we enjoy the game, but be aware that the terrible weather is Matt's fault. So be very careful around that,
It's the best thing about kit in the marches, actually, is it's all good for cold weather.
Mm.
I would like to talk about my hat.
Yes, please do.
Yes.
Now, Hattie's hat is famous, and I will admit that I fully intended it to be. Because
I want to clarify, Hattie, is that as a reference to the hat?
I'm getting to that.
Sorry, apologies.
As I was just about to say, when I was constructing my character concept in my head, and I was like, I should get a hat. And then I thought, the hat should be a talking point. And then when people say, oh, you called Hattie because of your hat, you go, no, it's just a coincidence. And that is the thing about it. And that is entirely OOC deliberate.
But I had this idea of just someone who's a bit scatterbrained.
And just put everything in her hat for safekeeping. And this hat that just gradually accumulates stuff. So if I may put my video back on, I can give you a tour of it.
Sure.
I can show you this. Hopefully it won't mess things up.
Okay, we're trying to give a good description for your audio listeners.
So I bought
Oh my goodness.
a fairly plain brown floppy broad-brimmed hat from
Chow's Emporium, I think it was.
There's loads of these,
And you can wear them in different ways. You can make them a tricorn for that's not Empire specific, but
Do not wear a tricorn hat, everyone. You will be
tricorn in Empire. And for other settings, you can make it bicock, you can make all sorts of things. But I've just pinned up one flap with this sort of straw flower badge. And then I started putting things on it. Now, one of my favourite things that I've got in here is a random key, right? That I found at one point. I decided that it's attached to a fine chain, which is pinned to the hat so it doesn't get lost. This is Hattie's door key, which nobody's ever really. It's tucked away. No one ever really sees it, but it's there. If anyone examines the hat, they will find a key, which is Hattie's door key. Out of character, I have no idea what it's the key for. It has a needle and thread.
it's got there's always a hanky tucked in the front, easily accessible for emotional moments, so she can whip it out and dab at her eyes.
There's a little tiny teapot charm hanging off the front because her name is Hattie Brewcup.
She actually brews medicinal teas.
Not like nice teas for drinking. She brews medicine.
Right.
I'll get to that in a bit. This is a charm that I won in a pie contest.
And then there's this little book where it's usually got a pencil tucked in there as well, so that she can
write stuff down, because otherwise she'll forget.
Little sort of charms and bits that she's picked up here and there, and 4
different poppets, because marchers need poppets. Now,
what's a poppet, for those that don't know?
It's, for those that don't know, and for those who are not in the nation, it looks like a little doll.
Yeah, it does look like a lot like a voodoo doll, is how I would describe it, right?
Yeah, funny that.
Yeah.
I've
always been a big fan of the marches, by the way. I just want to say that now before we go any further. And to any marchers listening to this, big fan, lovely people,
so
the best people.
poppets have lots of different cultural significance
and reasons, and they're part of different rituals and different aspects of Marcher hearth magic. And each of these 4 poppets have a different purpose. Hattie, they're all there for different reasons.
I love how even in this conversation, you guys are being cagey with me as an outsider, and I love it. I absolutely love it. It's so good. It's like,
from an outsider perspective, you don't want to spoil it.
No, and I love that as well. It's so good. Like if you want to know about marches stuff and know all the things there is to know about marches, you've got to join the marches.
Yeah, this isn't. We're not a cult. We promise. We just look really similar to one.
Yeah, if you have to say we're not a cult, you're definitely a cult. That's my experience of being at Empire for sure.
This one is my healing poppet. One of the things I love about Empire is hearth magic healing, in that you can invent whatever bollocks you want. And say that, and use it as your role play for your healing. I've got someone who does crystal healing and like wave stones around on people and like various things. You don't even have to touch the person, but you should, it's helpful to flavour it with your hearth magic, and it works. So I can go, I've got my poppet, I do stuff to my poppet, and now you're better, and I love that. But it's blank. Right, this poppet for listeners is a plain cloth doll with no face, no clothes, no nothing. The purposes of that is that Hattie can make it be anyone, like a voodoo doll, so she can use that to heal someone with.
So would that be like you take without being too specific, but taking an item or something that represents the person and applying it? Is that how it works?
That's how Hattie usually does it. She'll sometimes bandage its little leg or whatever. But my favourite thing is that she then goes, "Oh, kissy better,"
And it works.
and it works, which is brilliant.
God, think of the possibilities. Am I right? Oh my goodness!
Right, in full plate, stop. And Hattie doesn't go on the battlefield, but she does do healing at foot the ball matches, which are much more brutal than battles. We'll get to that at some point.
Oh, yes.
But having these massive, hard, like huge guys clomping around in armor, and then they go to be healed, and Hattie's like, "Oh, kissing better."
What did you just reference then? Some sort of fighting? Like what is that?
Foot the ball. Come on, you must have heard of foot the ball.
For the what? Sorry.
Foot the ball.
Foot the ball.
Yes.
It's coming home.
No. Oh my. No. I'm out. I've made a terrible mistake in my guess so far. Oh my goodness. So let's end the podcast now. Go on. Tell me what is foot the ball.
Yes. Marcus, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, can do. So, foot the ball is the national sport of the marches. It is the greatest sport ever invented. It is medieval football.
I'm shaking. My hand went straight to my face, and I'm just shaking my head right now. It's Please continue.
For the uninitiated, medieval football historically was more akin to a rugby match crossed with a fight between two villages, and was banned on several occasions as a form of public disorder.
Yeah, I've actually been. I went to a thing just outside of Leicester called bottle kicking, I think it's called, where two villages get a keg, and literally it's like a giant zero referee game of rugby, and it's incredibly brutal. And it was one of the most life affirming things I've ever done. It was terrifying and awesome, you know.
So you've played foot the ball.
Oh, is that kind of the vibe? Is it?
But the object is a brown leather ball, spherical, not egg shaped, but and you're not allowed any weapons longer than your forearm. Is that right?
Yeah, no weapons longer than your forearm, and no bladed weapons.
Well, that seems so safe. It now seems so safe and reasonable.
More traumatic wounds in a football match than in one of the battles. This is a legit fact. This has been. You count, and you are more likely to get a traumatic wound card playing football than you are on a battlefield.
Yep. I mean, so at the core, it is as well what I would call a semi-contact sport out of character.
Right.
We're not going like hard and absolutely walloping each other, but it is a collision sport. You know, we are charging around, bashing into each other. There's a little bit of wrestling, a little bit of grabbing.
I feel you're kind of, you should always err on the side of caution, right? And
so it is refed. The big thing it's refed by PD refs when we play at Anvil.
Awesome.
There is safety there. What they'll say is it normally follows almost Empire's grapple rules, which is with consent with a ref, that sort of thing. And the ref will say, "Hey, just a heads up, you are consenting to physical contact if you play this game." And I can't think of a time we've had any kind of proper OOC injuries, which is a testament to the fact that we're playing the game the right way, I think.
Yeah, no one really wants to. If you're going out there to actually hurt people at Empire, then please don't go to Empire anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You've missed the point entirely.
Precisely,
My favourite thing, though, about watching a football match is when you get two people who are effectively miming punching the shit out of each other with massive grins on their faces. Like huge grins on their faces, just like pretending to punch the crap out of each other, and it's just beautiful.
I remember one time Will Talbot used magic, which is obviously a foul. So three of us grabbed it. So three people grabbed his legs and stomped on his giblets like a wishbone.
And so, do you have to be a marcher to play?
Kind of.
Depends if it's a home or away match.
Yeah. home games are obviously the Marchers versus the Marchers, and the Marchers always win.
Yep.
Um,
It's a great result for everyone involved. Yep.
And then away games, we do occasionally. The last one I can think of was kind of Kingstoke Wassail, but it's almost an honour, I think, to be invited to play foot the ball, because it means as a nation that we think, yeah, you're all right, you are.
All right.
It's like the Orc Pit, right? Like
Yeah,
not everybody gets to go to the Orc Pit, but if you are there, you're meant to be there, and it's a sign of honor and respect, right? Like
We've played the Orcs a few times as well because we love them.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah, the Orcs love football.
They're great at it as well. They play hard.
Yeah. In fact, I would think like martial ability. Not that we can generalize too much, but I think I have equal fear as a monster if it's Imperial Orcs and Marchers. Like both of them are very effective fighting forces. Very different styles, but both deeply effective in their own ways. You know,
it's because we train. It's because we train. I'm convinced it is because of the hard work people like Chris Terry and Mitch Lawrence and George Barone put into training those of us that go on the field.
Right.
That's our effectiveness. You know, what we always say is we're not warriors, we're not heroes. You know, we're not Dornish or Wintermark. We're soldiers, and soldiers do their job and they listen to orders and they get the job done.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pole arms and long weapons in the Marches, and you can feel very exposed individually carrying one of those weapons. Absolutely. You're basically defenseless against archery unless you're wearing heavy armor, and if you're wearing heavy armor, then you're just OPing the whole thing and you're paid to win. But the unity is strength aspect to the fighting style of the Marches comes across very well, right? Like you very rarely do they break. They fight as one unit and they absolutely devastate. When they go hard, and it's terrifying.
I feel very honoured to kind of command one of the bill blocks, and absolutely everything you said. The folks that fight under kind of my command, I just kind of point them in a direction, blow my whistle, and watch them absolutely lawnmower some poor fuckers.
And lawnmower is a way to describe it, right? It feels like a lawnmower. It's just bashing through you can try and resist against it, but you're waiting for someone to flank them is what you're actually doing when you're fighting the Marchers. You're not going to win that face-to-face fight, you know?
No. See, I've never been... like my character is a non-combatant.
Mm-hmm.
Partly because having lost my previous character, I wasn't ready to use another.
Sure.
And also that I don't have the energy because actually they're physically very demanding. And I often find I sleep very well at LARP events. So I only just about have enough energy to get through a LARP event. And if I do the battles, it just finishes me. I can't do it.
Yeah, maybe we should touch on that very briefly, that you don't have to be a combat character to get a lot out of the game, and you're not alone in being a non-com, right? Like there are a lot of really great players who are not involved in combat. It's an aspect of the game I really enjoy.
To say that I am, there is part of me that regrets it because I hear the tales of battle and I just know that I have been in a couple of battles as my previous character, and it's electric, it's amazing. And the adrenaline is like nothing else. But just hearing Marcus talking about how effective and hearing you as well, an outsider, complimenting the Marchers as a fighting force, I feel a surge of pride. And it's like, well, it's weird national patriotism for a fictitious nation. It's the strangest thing, but I have such a strong feeling of loyalty and pride towards my nation.
I think we all do. I really do. If you look at our Facebook page, it's so supportive, and the community, even when we're off the field, is just so strong. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I think this is something I would say it's very special in the Marches, but like I'm a Navarre, right? And I love Navarre deeply, passionately. It's one of my but we reach the unity in different ways. right?
Absolutely.
Like, but the result of being a lucky player who gets to go and play Empire and feel that unity with strangers, right? Like, and people that like you might not agree on politics or 101 different things outside the game, but you'll stand together and risk like the things that your character that you really care about for someone else standing next to you because of your nation. And I think there's something really beautiful in that. And I think that's something that we can, like, I think we can all enjoy that aspect to it, you know?
I think the best example of Marcher community spirit I've ever seen, actually, was a battle, but it was before the battle. And when we go to battle, we form up, and we form into our columns, and we march off, and we got the drum going, and we'll have our musicians playing, and we'll sing our songs. And we march up to the Sentinel Gate, and we make a very brave martial sight. But then we get to the gate, and there's the Marcher non-coms. So many of the Marcher non-combatants there, seeing us off, giving us potions, giving us a bollocking, saying you better not come back dead or I'll kill you. You know, stuff like, it's just so beautiful. You feel, you go through the Sentinel Gate and you feel like you're going through the Sentinel Gate, all as one together for home.
And you're fighting for the nation, right? Like, even if things go badly, you're going to do your absolute best to do your best to get your people out of there and also importantly achieve the objective you're sent to do. I'm actually an auxiliary in so I'm a runner. So we've actually met before, Marcus, very briefly, where I ran up to you and gave you a command from the thing, and your response was like, you just asked what was required of you. Then you understood it and said, don't worry, we're going to get it done. And then you just turned around to all the people and said, we're going to go and do this. And it was like, I ran back there to the field command being like, yep, they're definitely going to go and do that right now. Like, don't worry,
was that the E4 battle?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Oh God, that would have been just outside the fort, where we wheeled out of the fort to go into line against the Yagara at Gorsebush Corner, and they kicked our asses up and down that field for an hour.
You gave it your best shot, though. This is the important thing.
Oh, well, I mean, that was a brutal fight, actually, because that was fighting in my character's homeland in Bregisland. My character had to be ordered by a senator to leave the field instead of making a last stand there. That went very poorly. There was a lot of crying from me, a lot of very angry crying. I lost one of my housemates. Actually, my partner at the time, he carked it. And it was a really brutal battle. But yeah, absolutely. You must have caught me in a good mood then, because
I think that might have been a different battle, actually. Because I think is that the one where there was almost like a line, it turned into a line battle. I think Wintermark. I think I was a monster and I was fighting Wintermark on the left flank, or our left flank, your right flank on that battle.
Yeah,
I think
that was the one with the ice giants.
Yes, I was on the other side of that, doing terrible damage to you guys, and I apologize.
All right. I mean, but yeah, you must have caught. Oh, go on.
Sorry, I just wanted to jump in and because you were talking about the thing about being seen off at the Sentinel Gate, and I just wanted to let you know what that's like from the other side.
Right.
Yes, please.
Because you don't get to see what happens after that, and every time there's this thing with the non-coms, and we all look at each other and go, "Oh, you're going to see him off." And go, "Oh yeah, we've got to go and see him off." And then, and I'm standing with the musicians, and, Hattie is singing her heart out, and she's looking at all these people. And the thing is, Hattie wants to be friends with everyone, and a lot of the time she succeeds. So she has a lot of love and affection for these people, and she's watching them, possibly, knowing that some of them might not come back, and singing her heart out to them, because she's like, I'm not going to show this. I'm not going to show that I'm worried for them. I'm not going to show my fear and concern. I'm going to put a bright smile on my face. I'm going to sing my heart out. And I'm going to make sure that they go off with courage and inspiration and feeling good, because that will mean that they're more likely to win. And then when the last of them go through and the music stops, and all the non-coms just look at each other. Nothing is said. There's just this look. and everybody knows what everyone else is thinking, and then somebody goes, right, kettle on then.
Yeah, I love that. I think this is like I think Empire is a very beautiful game from many different perspectives. Right, like you can play the game in a whole bunch of different ways, and like I try and have like a good weekend for me is like I try and aim for 3 moments of immersion, right? And I mean full immersion, which can be scary because there is such thing as bleed, where maybe things become too intense and can become too personal. But for me, I'm like a dog chasing cars almost, where those moments are what I really crave and search out when I'm at Empire. Is stories like that, Sonya. I think that's really wonderful.
You go back to the camp after that, and it's like a ghost town, because everyone who is in the battle, you've got not only everyone who's in the battle, but everybody else who is not in character fighting that day is off on maneuvers, i.e. they're monstering.
Yeah.
So all you have left is the non-comms. And
there's it's quiet. It's a time to get the washing up done. It's a time to have a nap or rest or tidy up. And Hattie always makes sure that she has the Tom Drake's tea, which is other people will know as Tranquil Nostrum, which is one of the basic potions. But you make it in a teapot or a pot, so you make a whole pot of it at once, and everyone who drinks some of it gets healing. So Hattie always makes sure she has a pot of the Tom Drake's tea for when they come back from the battle. And when they come back and everyone gets well, you have to sit and rest for 15 minutes, otherwise it doesn't work. So it's a way of in and out of character, making sure that people sit down, have a sit, and it's got honey and salt in it, so it gives you sugar and salt. It's like rehydration salts in tea form almost.
Right.
And you give it to everyone, and it's that's the one potion that Hattie never charges for, because that's her contribution to the war effort. And it's the I'm going to welcome back the soldiers, and she's it's always vitally important to her. Like everything else puts on hold. No, I've got to have the Tom Drake ready for when they come back.
I think giving someone like something that is OC helpful to them, i.e. giving them salt and sugar after a giant adrenaline dump, which a battle can be, is really cool. I think I like that idea too.
I have missed Tom Drake's with both so much this last year and a half. Just not. It's one of those little moments for me. I mean, my events are so fucking hectic. I'm that larper. I'll forget to eat and I'll forget to drink because I'm kind of bound from military council to a meeting to a skirmish to training.
It happens to the best of us. Absolutely.
And I'll just be dead on my feet. After the battle, I will blow my voice out screaming every battle. So my voice is shagged. I know that I've got about 20 minutes to kind of chill out before I've got to go to the next military council meeting and do all the end of event stuff. And just being able to sit down with a mug of Tom Drake's and you kind of just go, whew, just decompress.
Yeah. The role play effect of it is that it makes you drowsy as well.
So Hattie always goes around, right? It will make you drowsy, so do not try to operate any heavy farming implements or drive for at least an hour afterwards. All right. I always say the disclaimer to everyone, and it always gets a smile out of people.
And it's what you need. We've had it off some really shit battles. Go on.
It always forces people to sit and rest, and when I've been teaching, I often get the kids to help me with alchemy because they really enjoy that, and one of the things I always say to the kids, right, who can tell me what is the most difficult part of making Tom Drake's tea? Yes, that's right. Getting people to sit still for 15 minutes.
One thing I would say I like about the march is there's always seating. I've always managed to find a sit-down place in the marches whenever I've been visiting. we're pushing on for time, and I feel like we could talk for genuinely hours. So I'm going to try and move the conversation on just a little bit. I actually have a question that I wrote down, which kind of leads into the community hall question. But if a tourist from another nation was going to visit the Marches area and camp, what sort of sightseeing would you recommend they go and enjoy in the Marches?
Oh, Sonya, this is you because I'm never bloody there.
Yeah, well, obviously there's Mandela's Arms. There used to be the Applewood Levee, but they don't often have a tent these days. Merrick's is more of a place for marchers, but if you're a guest of a marcher, then you'll probably end up being taken there because it's a community hall, and it's the most amazing thing. And I think that Merrick's is the thing that makes marches stand out.
So is Merrick's like a bar for marches, effectively? Is that what you're saying?
No. Merrick's is not a bar.
Okay.
So the Merricks were a group. They were a household. And when they were still in play, they set up this thing, which was a community hall, which is a really big sort of garage tent. And every household brought a banner to hang in it. And it's like having your village hall or your church hall. There always is a kettle on. So and marchers get free tea and coffee all the time. And it's used as a place to hold meetings. It's like you can book slots in it if you're a marcher and you go, I'm going to hold this meeting here at this point. So all about like the generals or the religious meetings or whatever. And if it's free, there might be some other random meetings. Like I've occasionally tried to host my Imperial Horticultural Society meeting there. And stuff, sure. Dance practice, whatever, and then in the evening, that's where people congregate. Like my character wrote a song about it, and it's called "We'll All Be Making Merry Merry with the Merricks," and it was an amazing thing because it means that even if someone who doesn't have a group has got somewhere to go if it rains, there is always somewhere where you can be and socialise and have a cup of tea and bring your food and eat it. You know, if it's not everyone's got a massive camp with all mod cons and an awning and everything. You know, quite a lot of people have got some amazing camp setups, but not everyone can afford to do that. And community hall is just really inclusive in that way, and it means that various household comes together. There's always board games lying around on all the tables, so if you want, you can just pick up a random board game and play it. In character ones, like proper wooden things and cloth things, and then Sylvie, so one of the Applewood Levee characters, and when the Levee didn't have their tent anymore, she started bringing all her collection of various interesting flavored teas and things, and she really went all out. This is Stacey out of character, and she just went almost overboard on getting squash and making sure we had, lactose-free milk for those who needed it, for vegans, and herbal teas and all this kind of stuff. And there was just like an honesty box of, just put money in if you feel like it. And with if non-marchers come to Merrick's and they want a tea or coffee, they're expected to pay for it.
Sure.
In character money, but marchers get it for free.
I think there's as something when I first started going to Empire, before we got an awning and a decent fire setup, it can be quite I don't know what the right word is, isolating, depressing, when you're like, you've got nowhere, you have to basically go and hide in your tent, right? And you feel like you're missing out on interacting with people and game and all those things. So having a community area which is covered and where you can get a hot drink is a really good idea,
And the best thing is that the musicians will often congregate either there or in mandalas. You'll find some musicians sitting in a corner, noodling away, practicing something, whatever. Usually Kit, who's our egregore, I mean, Catherine Wheeler is amazing, I just want to say.
Oh God, yeah.
And she adds so much to the game because she's such an excellent musician, and she always brings her accordion, and you can start singing something and she's got like perfect pitch, and she'll just immediately come up with an accompaniment like effortlessly on the accordion for you. She brings, I think she brings a fiddle or something. Sometimes she got various pipes.
Got a pipe and tabor and stuff, yeah.
And of course you've got the Maidstone mummers as well, and they come along, and then you've got with the loads of I can't even mention everybody because I'm rubbish with names as well.
Don't worry. It's I know what you mean. You feel pressure sometimes to mention everybody. Like it's tough, like because they didn't mention me, but please don't worry about that. Like
But I love the fact that our egregore is one of the ones that does the music, so that because she's always there in camp, and she's often got her instruments with her, and then everyone will start. So I don't know if I'm bigging this up too much because I think she was I don't know if she was taking a break or something.
I think she's taking a break, although I don't know how that's worked out with, like, obviously this break that we've all had. So.
The longest break. I remember we went to a summer fair or something. Was it summer? There's a fair in the Marches.
Yes,
the Marches Summer Fete. Yeah,
it is, right? And we went there, and my buddy Ian, who I do the podcast with, there was a musician playing, and I turned to him and I was like, "Isn't it cool that like this music is playing in the background? It really adds to the vibe type thing." And he's like, he had no idea. It was almost like he was so in the moment. It was just part of the aesthetic for what was happening around him. It was so like, you know what I mean? Rather than because I think there's a couple of different types of performances that you can do at Empire. There's things where everybody has to concentrate on that one thing, and there's other performance you kind of add to the ambience of the moment, and that was kind of what I loved about it. It was low key but added to the whole atmosphere of the event, and it was a really cool moment.
Music is emotional shorthand.
Absolutely,
and I think this is one of the things that really sold the Marches for me, and why I maintain it's the best nation, and I don't want to leave. I don't want to go and try anything else because of the music. Because all the different nations have their different music and their different styles, and they all have something like them. I like the hauntingness of Varushka as well. That really encapsulates it. But the feeling of togetherness and community that we get, because we do harmonies and we do the high courage chorus run by Abigail's character, Sister Meredith, that just brought us all together, and she was teaching us various harmonies and things so we can all learn songs and sing it together. But then, like, in the evenings, everyone gets together and someone starts singing a song and everybody joins in. Like, you got households that are at odds with each other, or people who were punching each other earlier in the football match or whatever, but everyone's singing together. Everyone's got a drink in their hand. Everyone's laughing. Sometimes we do dancing as well. The dancing, the music and the dancing and the food.
This is one thing I haven't managed to do at Empire yet, is go dancing, and it's something I really intend on doing, is to maybe the first couple of events is really get into some dancing and really like trying to find out what's that, like Senate sessions and now I'm hearing the marches as well. Like I'm gonna have a busy Friday and Saturday night basically.
I tell you what, this character was created to party, and yeah, I made this character to party, and the Marches has not disappointed. If you want a good time, come to the Marches in the evening.
I mean, I want a good time, that's for damn sure.
we need to get Hattie a badge that says reincarnated to party.
Like, seriously, I love a good knees up, Addy.
Whereas it's funny, out of character, I really love singing. I love kind of just hanging out. Singing in the pub is one of my favorite out of character pastimes.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is the character I play is the original miserable bastard by way of Sam Vimes and Richard Sharp.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Stoic.
I spend not even stoic. He's just a miserable bugger. I spend a lot of time when I'm not in meetings stomping to the next meeting and bastard. It was one of the most beautiful moments at Wassail, which is the other huge Marcher cultural event. That's the other one to get involved with our dancing, because we will come to your camp and we will make you dance.
Could you describe that for me very briefly?
We all wear masks, and they're very sort of rustic themed things. It's basically a harvest festival. The tradition in the marches is to go wassailing, so you go round people's houses and get given stuff. But at Anvil, so i.e. at events, it's done backwards. So we take any excess produce that we have and share it with other people in the name of prosperity. So we're basically giving people free food and drink. So we wander around with this great big fancy dress procession around the different nations. In every nation, we will give them a song and a dance and a load of food, and then we move on. And every year we have 2 people who are elected the monarchs of the Wassail. And the time before last, I think it was, Hattie finally got elected, and it's like, it's one of these things that's been her dream since she was 6. Like, I finally got to be Wassail Queen!
Worship me!
I got this curse. This curse that is like, you think you're a real queen, you think you're actual royalty, and you expect everyone to treat you as such, and if they don't, you take damage. So basically, she was lardy-dying around and expecting preferential treatment, which is anathema to the Marcher ethos.
Yeah, very much so, right?
And you know, and if people refused, she would literally have a heart attack. And when the curse was lifted, this involved my non-combatant character running up to this fucking nails crab-clawed herald, and trying to punch him. Right? My non-combatant character ineffectually trying to beat up a massive, naturally armoured crab herald. Because
Herald. Can you just describe what a herald is very briefly for people that might not know?
So you've got Eternals, which are like, they're not gods, but they are godlike powered, capricious entities, and heralds are sort of their representation. Is that right? They're sort of
they're like their demony messenger-y things, yeah.
So this
not people you want to get into a punch up with, basically.
No, really not, and really not if you're an unarmed, non-combatant character with you know, trying to hit it with your bare hands. But she was that angry. She was so angry that this beautiful thing that she'd been dreaming of since she was 6 had been subverted into this horrible, almost Dornish thing of like the idea of it being twisted in that way was just wrongness.
There is some fury as well as who would do that to Hattie. Hattie is precious and pure. Do not touch Hattie.
Yeah. I realised recently how much power this character has just because of that.
Oh god, yeah. All you'd have to do is come into camp crying, going, "Someone was mean to me in Dawn," and we'd be lynching people. There would be heads on. There would be heads on spikes.
I realised this power at one point, and then somebody actually pointed it out to Hattie in character at one point. I think Hattie is starting to realise it, and she hates it. She's terrified by this. Like, no.
I had a conversation with Gabby when I was doing who plays in oh, what's her name? Oh my god, that's embarrassing. I should hand my Navarre card in. It's been a year. Come on, give me a break. But we had a conversation for the songs and stories, and Gabby doesn't really do that much go take to the field and it's kind of non-com sort of role. And yeah, the same sort of worry as a lot of people have of potentially getting killed on the battlefield. And I was just like, you do understand like the power that you have in Navarre. Like if someone said that you're in danger, the entire nation would sacrifice themselves to try and get you safe. Like that's there are certain people that are, and in fact, Marcus, I think you mentioned this, that didn't you just, how did you describe Sonia's character? It was almost like part of the nation, right? Like the heart of the nation.
The marcheriest marcher that ever did marcher.
Right. And I think
someone has actually in character referred to me, various people have referred to me as the heart of the nation.
Yep. That's the one that goes around.
And I think that's a really good indicator that you don't have to take the field and be the hero and do all those kind of like maybe conventional, what we think of as like power in fantasy or anything like that. You can be a wonderful character and make the entire nation feel more like that nation through your presence and actions, right? And I think that's something really, really great and really aspirational.
I mean, absolutely,
that's my biggest achievement, possibly in all of my LARPing career. That might be my biggest achievement, and I'm absolutely blown away by this.
Right. I think it's I would call myself a LARP advocate now, because I think there's like when you say cheering people on before they go and fight. I don't know about you guys, but I don't often have people cheering me on in anything of my normal life, right? Like you know, you're doing your thing in life and trying to get through it. And I think there's something really like life affirming in a very real sense by going through LARP and simulating some of these acts where some of them can become very real, even if that is an emotional response to it, but it can make you realize certain aspects of yourself that you didn't even realize yourself and really celebrate yourself for having achieved the things you've done, you know?
I think absolutely. Go on, sorry, Sonia.
Sorry, I just wanted to say something about in-character funerals.
Oh, God.
Don't, please. Every single time I've mentioned my character's death, and I honestly sound like a broken. I need to get out there and get LARPing again, because I bring up my own death and my own funeral all the time, like a broken record. It's one of the greatest LARPing experiences I've ever had.
It's the highlight of every character.
As you know, as I said before, that part of playing Hattie was to try and explore emotional things that I want to get better at myself. And one of the I have various mental health issues, and one of the things is around death and bereavement, and how to experience those emotions in a healthy way. And Marcher pragmatism is really helpful. When Hattie comes across tragedy, her motto is you have to have a good cry because it's only right and proper.
Yeah.
There's one point where Tomothy, Marcus's character, came up and said, "Stop crying," and it was horrible. But it was just this whole, no, how dare you tell me how to grieve? And it really threw that into, because he was like, you shouldn't cry, you should get angry instead. And
right, that's a very that I've heard that before, actually.
A real contrast between the characters, but Hattie is like, quite annoyed with him for that. But it's like, no, because the whole thing about this character is that she will cry her eyes out, she will absolutely bawl her eyes out, and then she will pick herself up, dust herself off, and go right on to the next thing. And it's not an act of disrespect to move on from that and go and then do the next happy thing. Like, we've got this party later on. but you can cry in the funeral and have a real good cry, and then you can just pick yourself up and go and party afterwards. And if you then having another cry, you can.
I think there's a realization that grief is the price we pay for love, right? So grief is something very natural and good. And also going back to your point as well, like we all have mental health. All of us do. Whoever's listening to this does. All of you do, right? Like, and we all have our own worries, insecurities, thoughts, and all that stuff. And I think that's something to be like, if you, and I say this a lot, if you are struggling with serious mental health, there's obviously good professionals. You shouldn't rely on LARP for this, but LARP can give you wonderful insights into yourself and your own feelings on situations, right?
I would
Absolutely.
add to this, LARP is a good sandbox for trying out new personality things that you want to how would this work, what would happen if I did this. However, you have to bear in mind that other people are not playing to your script. So
yes,
if you put something very deeply personal, a therapy thing in there, if you try and use laughs therapy in that way, and you do something very core and to the bone, and other people then might not do what is best for you, OOC mental health wise. So you have to bear that in mind.
And Sonya, I would say that you illustrated that perfectly with what you were saying about the reaction to grief after death, right? Some people in the character would say anger is the right response, right? And that might catch you completely sideways.
It did. I had to take a moment, OOC, for that. But it also...
Oh, shit, I didn't realise, man. Sorry.
No, seriously, that's fine, because it's all part of it for me. When I went and processed that afterwards, that was like, why did that affect me so strongly? Oh, it's because this. And it's because, and actually, it was then looking at that, going, well, this is the contrast between the different ways, and people have different ways of grieving, and that it highlighted for me that everyone has their own way, and you can't criticize other people's way. And it just solidified for me my conviction that everyone should be allowed to grieve in your own way, because this is what happens if you're not allowed.
Right.
I mean, Hattie's really interesting. Oh, go on. Sorry.
I found that very interesting.
So don't worry about it from an out of character perspective. In character, I may have words at some point. But
now I'm actually scared. I like Tomothy.
You're off to the grow bag for you, Marcus.
But yeah,
well, it was always going to end that way.
But yeah, the other thing is, we were talking about the music earlier as well,
and some of the March of Funeral songs, and when I said it's an emotional shortcut, and it can punch you in the feels.
Christ, yeah.
Honestly, gut punch you to the feels
when you hear the marchers singing at a funeral. Because they have some that are like proper funeral dirges.
Earth Receive My Soul, Fire and Fleeting Candle Lead, that one, and it's just like you get a load of people and they're all just sobbing, and then with some people singing this dirge-like song, and then you've got other ones which is like actually quite gentle, bringing in the sheaves, for example, and stuff. And we had one point where somebody was dying in a hospital, or someone was fighting for their life in a hospital, and we were singing outside the hospital, the whole of the High Courage Chorus, desperately willing this person to live, and we were singing, "Come Follow Me Home" or something like that, and like trying to call him back into the world of the living. And then somebody just came out and shook their head, and we changed song.
Yeah.
And we changed song, and we were crying and singing at the same time. And God, I'm welling up just thinking about it, because
very much so. I was very fortunate that I had a fellow Navari called Sam, who plays Sparrow. He told the story. He's the man, isn't he? I really like the guy. But that's about my fanboying. He was very kind enough to tell my story of my death at Songs and Storytime. I literally wept listening to him tell the story. And it was something that I recognized as an emotional release for whatever that might mean, right? These are, I mean, my tears are real, even if LARP isn't, right? But to process that and just to settle into that emotion and let it be, right? Like to let it really exist and enjoy the moment as it's happening, even if it is emotional. And it's a truly special experience to experience that sort of emotion. And
Nowhere else you get to be at your own funeral.
yeah, I find it an odd aspect to our society that we can cry at a movie, right, or a book, and people will understand that. But if you do that through role play, that's somehow different. And I really feel that they're tapping into the same thing. In fact, LARP, because you're part of that story, can be a lot more compelling and a lot more real and a lot more life affirming.
Now, hun, in the words of Hattie, you've to have a good cry because it's only right and proper.
Yeah.
I mean, I consider it a good event once I've had at least one proper ugly, snotty, crying character.
Real Tears roleplay is the best roleplay.
Right? That last battle at E4 where we got our asses kicked and we're having to retreat from Bragisland, and where it happened in Bragisland is like 10 miles. Where it happened in Bill Sabby is like 10 miles from Anton's Gout, where Timothy's from.
Oh no!
So like Timothy could
down
have
the road from your house.
Timothy was literally inches away before he got ordered by a senator from just going, you know what, fuck this, I'm walking home. I'm just sod the army, sod the nation, you know, sod the war. I'm going home. Obviously, there's no home there because the Jotun burnt it down. But you know that would have been curtains for Timothy. And there was one moment. It was with Black Jack, Matt Kay. We were both kind of on the battlefield at the end as the army was trooping off, and I wasn't leaving. And I said to Black Jack, "You come here to die, then?" And he said, "Seems as good a place as any."
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna cry.
But no, I think it's actually really interesting. Touching on that point earlier about kind of grief, it shows the kind of the depth of character that you can have in any nation, but especially in the marches, portraying different aspects of the nation. You know, Hattie is that resilience for me. You know, that courage, that endurance, and that cheeriness. Whereas Timothy is frankly a very maladjusted human being with a lot of trauma.
But you're all part of the nation, right?
Absolutely.
Like,
that's all we can come together, even
right,
despite those complete differences in who we are as people and how we look at the world and how we process things. We still come together through the hearth magic.
I found that Hattie can help me in real life when I'm lacking that emotional fortitude and resilience. Sometimes I'm like, you know, I can always hear her voice in the back of my head. You know, I could always, what would Hattie say? What would she do? Because you talk about, you know, the LARP isn't real, but the feelings are, and that's really a thing. And I like the term sandbox for it, because you can explore emotions in a safe way, because
Absolutely.
you can really throw yourself into a scenario, and your brain on some level doesn't quite know the difference.
It's like a VR headset, right?
No, it's not real. You know,
Part of your emotional brain doesn't know that it's not real for a second there. So you can experience the very real emotion.
And then you can stop, you can come out of it. And it wasn't real,
It's not actually happening, so you can then be a step removed from it as well. You can then watch yourself having those emotions. You can see what caused them to happen. And you go, what would be a better way to do, you know, it's fascinating.
I've actually heard that being said for film, and why we enjoy sad movies or horror films is a way of us to experience an emotion in safe boundaries. And I think LARP does this to a greater degree where we can experience this stuff. Now, if you're walking on the wild side,
you have to have,
Sonia?
you have to have you have man down as a or halt game or whatever for a physical safety call, which means stop the game, someone's OOC injured. You have to have the same attitude towards mental health as well.
Oh, for sure.
100%.
It's much more immediate than a film or a book, and it's harder to extract yourself. It takes a little bit more to extract yourself and bring yourself back round, bring yourself out of it. So you have to be aware of that, and you have to be conscious of that in others as well. And occasionally, sometimes if someone seems very upset, you can check in with people, go, you OOC okay, and they'll nod and you're okay, right, and then you're back into role playing. It does pay to check in with people and to be aware of it in yourself as well. Do I need to take a break at this point?
Yeah, I've got genuinely angry at Empire. Right, I won't go into why I was, but I got genuinely angry, and I couldn't tell where I ended and my character began because my OC effort into things was part of the icy stuff, and it's it might have not been enjoyable at the time, but stepping back taught me a huge amount about myself. Right, like it can be very emotional, and I think I highly recommend having a place that you can go to where you can talk and feel relaxed and just let go of some emotions that you might be holding on to at Empire. Give yourself some time to process them, as any strong emotion should be.
I think it's a good idea to have a buddy, have emotional support. If you particularly if you're someone with pre-existing mental health issues, it can be good to have a buddy who isn't going to mind, and have several, so that if they're completely engrossed in some role play, you can ask somebody else. But someone that you can go, can you come and take a few minutes with me out of character? And that they've got your back.
Yeah, Marcus, what were you saying?
So, I mean, for me, that place to unwind is actually Merrick's. I spend a lot of my day kind of having arguments with people professionally and then doing complex mental maths badly because I'm rubbish at it. It's a mystery as to how I got that general slot. It really is. So for me, it is that even though it's not such like an immediate, I need to unwind right now, like, I need to decompress instantly, just having that place in Merrick's to go and be in character, but not full on doing my character's argumentative, confrontational thing. I mean, what I've started doing is I end every evening at the event. And normally I'll get out of like a meeting at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'll just bimble over to Merrick's if it's, if the lights are still on and stuff. Just before timeout, I'll have a brew and I'll just sit there and read the paper in character, and it just settles me down for the evening.
Yeah,
there's nothing.
Time-ish as well as a thing that can.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than going straight to bed after you've just had, a really good stand-up, a really fun stand-up screaming daggers out row with someone. And, obviously I try, and if I'm going to scream at someone, I'll kind of let them know by my kind of body language and demeanor that we're building up to a confrontation. And then once it's done, it'll be, hey, mate, OC, you good? We good? Nice one. Just that quick check to make sure that neither of you needs any, additional support.
Yeah, and I like that. I like that responsibility as well. That there are players out there that play hard, right? There is political PvP and all of that stuff, right? But to be aware of who you're talking to, and just to let them know that there's an affection there despite our characters' disagreements, I think is a really nice way
what I always try and remind myself of is there's a lot of characters out there that Tomothy really doesn't like. Tomothy can reel off dozens of characters that he, for whatever reason, doesn't like. Could be petty reasons, could be big ones. But what I always have to try and remind myself, because obviously a big part of my empire is Thursday nights in the pub. in the Forge, and you'll run into these people that play these characters that your character detests, and you've got to have that mental of, wait, no, my character thinks your character is a prick. I think you're all right, actually.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, I think that's a lot more common than you think it is. I've heard of lots of situations where people have had blazing rows, and they're their favorite person at Empire for testing.
Gotcha. That's the best people to have arguments with, or my favorite people to have these screaming matches with, are people that are my good mates, OOC.
Yeah, people's nemesis
where their
are
boundaries
great.
are. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to hold back as much because you know where their boundaries are already.
And to be honest, a lot of the time we'll go, before an event, if we're just hanging out, before we drive down, hey, when you do that thing, don't be surprised if Timothy kicks off.
Right. Just touching on it briefly, how do people get elected to different offices within the marches, i.e. senators, generals, that sort of thing?
By saying they want to be and then convincing everybody else.
Is it a democratic vote?
Depends on what office it is.
Sorry, say that again, Sonia?
It depends on what office it is, because some of the things only landowners can vote on.
What? There's a difference. So there are not landowners?
Yeah. Yes. They're basically, the landowners are the stewards. They're heads of their households. So they're the people that own the land.
So effectively, your in Navarre speak, your Striding's leader effectively is the landowner.
It's probably similar.
Kind of.
And there's ones that you can only do if you've got a farm, I think.
Yeah, I mean the basic qualification for voting in the marches. The basic qualification for voting in the marches is ownership of a farm. And it is specifically a farm, not a mine, not a forest, not a business. It's a farm. You have a farm, then you can vote in Senate elections is the biggie.
Yeah.
However, the way that we do our Senate elections is a little bit weird. So
you put them all in giant wicker men and then set fire to the ones that you don't like?
We do that to the ones we do like after they've been senator for a bit.
Sure.
No. Basically, what you're actually doing is electing a steward of a house to be the receiver, if you like, the recorder of that territory, and then they appoint the senator. What that really means in political terms is a bit like first past the post. Yes, you're kind of voting for your local MP, but really the bigger vote is for who the PM is because they're the leader of that party. Right. It's a bad analogy, but it's kind of the best I got.
No, that does clear a little bit up for me.
Vote for someone that you think is going to vote for someone that you want.
Yeah. And then
if you don't have a vote, if you're someone without a farm, then
the way that you influence things politically is to bend the ear of the people who have got a farm.
Yes.
And try to convince them to vote for the person you want them to vote for.
This is the rumor that goes around that the Marches is the richest nation beyond anyone else. Is that rumor true?
I would say we used to be. The reason I'd say we used to be is because when Bregasland kicked off and we got invaded, there was a very good player-led initiative for basically 90% of us that had farms and were voting marchers. We converted our farms to military units, our downtime resources, so that we could provide more military support to the Empire's campaigns. Obviously, farms and businesses are kind of off the bat the quickest way to make hard cash resource. I'm sure there's someone out there.
I think the reason that we are not the richest nation is because we don't have as many kids as other nations.
Oh God, kids are money spinners.
The kids in the academy, they make their crafts and they go around and they sell things through the power of cute, and it's the thing that's called cakeonomics, where people bring out of character goods that they have made and they sell them for in character money, and you make more money doing that than selling in-character resources. Now, this is controversial because of it being that way around, but then you can also go, well, the other way around, it means that people can, as Marcus was saying earlier, you can spend pretend money on real food, which is also kind of good in an accessibility way. So
I got hustled for carrots one time, by the way. I just loved the hustle of the guy I was talking to. It was a pretty young guy. I'm 37, so for me, it's like a lot of players look very young to me, but it was like that kind of borderline, like maybe under 16. But the hustle of trying to sell me carrots was enough for me to reach into my purse. It was
how much did you pay for carrots?
It wasn't much. I think I'm going to sound like I got hustled here. I think it was 5 rings for 2 carrots, but yeah, I know, very expensive carrots. But honestly, carrots are a great snack at Empire. I was like very happy with my purchase. So I think if the tradesperson and the buyer both feel good about the sale, then it's a good deal.
Oh,
you know?
God, it's good
don't try. The kids are all about the money.
Oh yeah,
Any of the characters are all about the money. Like there's supposed to be in the March of Brief. There is supposed to be this thing about giving a hand,
and that kids are meant to go and help you with things when asked, because that's how they learn,
and that's how they decide what career they want to do. And it's a bit sort of like a very generalized apprenticeship. That's how it is in the brief. Except if you say to a kid, "Oh, do you want to come and give a hand?" They go, "How much will you give me for it?" That's what the Academy teaches them.
I'd really like to do an episode on the Academy, which I should actually start putting out feelers on and see if I can get someone.
I may have an in for you there. I'll message you that. I know a guy who might be very happy to come and talk, actually.
Marcus, I love this. This is also continuing my run at the moment of having guests on who recommend new guests who turn out to be awesome. So I'm a big fan of this. It means much less work for me. Much less work, which involved for you guys was a post about muscular legs on Facebook was enough to get this interview sorted.
The worst thing is, right, just to readdress the legs.
Let's readdress the legs. Yeah, please, let's do.
But I mean, there's 2 of them. We've looked at one. Let's look at the other.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it wasn't even my thing. I co-opted it, so it was, as far as I can tell, it was Rachel Westra, who plays Friar Rosie now. Used to play General Flowers. Absolute badass.
Yeah,
just the baddest of badasses. And she used to wear, and still does wear, her hose rolled down like I do, because that is a medieval style of wearing your hose when it's warm out.
I also like the way that there's look at the legs on that in a non-sexual way. It's just like a real wow, seriously, I can appreciate those.
Oh yeah, it's there's a lot of platonic leg admiring in the marches. I actually want to try
the balance, isn't it?
I want to try and organise a thigh contest at the next Summer Fate.
Jesus, let me know when that's happening. Yeah.
Can I make a claim to fame? People may dispute this. People may well dispute this. But you know that it's now become a thing in the marches that if you are not wearing a hat, you're considered naked.
Yep, very true as well.
Which is why if you wear a coif under your hat, it means you can remove your hat and not be naked, which is why coifs have been referred to as head pants. Now, I claim this because it never used to be. It was never in the costume brief that the marches had a modesty thing about hats.
It still isn't. It's great. It's just
never in the costume brief, and nobody was saying it.
But when I joined, because I had this thing about Hattie, that she always had all of her stuff on her hat, that she felt lost without it, and she never took it off, because if she did, she'd lose everything. Right, so I always decided that she was never going to remove her hat. And someone commented on this, and she said, "Oh, I feel naked without it."
you know, and she became this sort of obsession for her that she didn't want to be seen without her hat. She had to go into a tent in order to take it off because she just felt weird going out without her hat. And I think that stuck. I think some people heard that, took it to heart, and decided it was a Marcher thing, and now it is.
You're the
Oh, it's such a Marcher thing.
You're
now.
a key point in
I think that's my
Marcher
claim to fame.
conservatism.
And that's my claim to fame. Other people may dispute this.
But I think I am responsible for the Marcher hat thing. So I just want to say,
Because it was just a thing when I came in. It was just an established thing, but I use it a lot, actually. You know, if I've got to say something really profound and heartfelt, I'll take my hat and my coif and go, I stand here before you as a naked man, and what I say comes from the art.
Yeah.
And I move, you know, I'm like,
her hat off for funerals, but she's got a coif on underneath, so it's okay.
oh yeah, see, I'll take my hat off, but not my coif off to show respect. If I want to say something really honest and heartfelt, I'll take my hat and my coif off.
Ooh.
Yeah, right, scandalous.
I remember someone coming up to me and giving me an ice cream, and by way of
and like he took his hat off and he had the ice cream under his hat, and then he gave me the ice cream, and I was like, wait a minute, are you flirting with me?
Was that Jacob Fenner by any chance?
No, it was not Jacob Fenner. It was thingy. I can't remember his name. I'm terrible with names.
Just
you know,
call him Jack. Call him Jack.
No, it was not. It wasn't Jack. He's
I like the idea of some Eurozen listening to it, like tugging out their collars because it's getting a bit steamy. Do you know what I mean? Talking about all those hats coming off. You know?
Oh my!
Ooh, we're going to be talking about handshakes next.
But had a very proper grandma. So there's like it's
Most marchers are very kind of
don't be such a prude or whatever. It's all very, they're all very matter of fact about things.
Up and ready.
Whereas because Hattie had this very strict
nan who was like, oh no, hanky panky before you wed, and these sorts of things. Whereas that's not a Marcher thing, that's just a Hattie thing.
Right, we should start bringing this to a close because we're. I'm trying to keep these things under an hour and a half for our poor listeners, but we're blowing into almost 2 hours now. Is there anything that you wanted to kind of close up that you don't think we've covered when it comes to the march? I understand that there is a lot to the marches that maybe you should just go and enjoy the marches or even play as a marcher. But is there anything else you want to touch on before we go?
There's a thing I really meant to say earlier about the community spirit and the OOC side of things. That something that I think for me really summed it up, and it was at one of the particularly muddy events when everybody's cars were getting stuck, and people would go into the marcher camp and go, "My car's been stuck." And immediately people would leap to their aid, total strangers. And, and if I go, oh, I need help carrying X, Y, Z, or in the terrible cursed weather things where people's tents were falling down. And if you ask for help in the marches, 5 people will immediately jump up and help.
Yeah,
you.
And on Sunday, everybody's tired. Everyone's keen to help on the Friday, but or Thursday, but like a Sunday help means a lot to people, right? Like everyone's tired, everyone's exhausted, everyone's given it their all. They all want to head home, get some takeaway in them, and sleep.
That to me sums up the fact that the community spirit extends into the out of character. And that everybody there, if you go on the Facebook group as a newbie, you will be welcomed with open arms. If you go on the field, you will be welcomed with open arms. There's the muster at the beginning of every event where all of the players come out in the field and we discuss what happened during downtime. And every time at the first muster of every event, there's, who's new here? Who's new to Anvil?
Yeah.
And they get introduced in character, and they go, "Hi, my name's Jack. I'm from Upwold," or whatever, and everyone goes, "Hello." And then when they say which territory they're from, there's always a cheer from the other people in that territory as well. So there's immediate sense of belonging.
I love that.
When you go there,
It's something I love. sorry, yeah, just to build on that, Sonya said, it's something I love with that muster at the start as well, is one of the things that people will do is they'll go, hey, I'm so-and-so, I run this thing. If you're interested in doing this thing, come and find me, I'll be over here. And it's just that instant signposting of here's game for new people. Because for me,
April's really good at that as well. That's
oh god, yeah, that's so good.
But because we've got at least 2 Egregores now, I think, and they're both really good at that. You can go up to them, and if you ever do find yourself not having a good time, go to them. It's literally what they're for.
Yeah. Or look for the woman in the hat, right?
Well, I was meant to be taking a break this year because I wanted to try as many systems as possible. But that now I've had a break from Empire involuntarily, and also this discussion has given me loads of keen. So now I'm gonna
Awesome.
We'll see. I may or may not be there at the next event. But heck, no, I will be there at the next event.
Not to guilt you, Sonya, but you know that the one time Hattie doesn't turn up, something awful is going to happen.
Oh God, no! Don't do that.
Emotional blackmail. It's okay if it's icy. Wonderful, Marcus. Any closing thoughts before we go?
Honestly, just I hope our ramblings, kind of bouncing from topic to topic, have given people that are listening some idea of just how awesome it is to be in the marches. The biggest thing I'd say, some nations you can really get a handle on reading the wiki. Marches, there's lots of good stuff to learn on the wiki. Absolutely go in and read the relevant bits of the wiki to you. Don't feel like you need to memorize the whole thing. Mm-hmm. But if you want to, if you've got a specific character concept and you're not sure how to bring it to the marches, get on the Facebook page and ask us, because you'll get 1,000,001 different ideas. You'll get compliments. You'll get genuine constructive feedback, and you'll get half a dozen people going, oh, hey, I'm doing something similar, or I had something similar in mind. Let's do this together. And just that the hype.
Ramblings. Do you want to join my group?
Yeah, the hype train keeps rolling. Although, if you are new and jumping onto the marches page, expect to get pounced on by half a dozen stewards going, hey, don't suppose
come onto the marches page. Expect merciless ribbing.
Yes.
Awesome.
The Dornish, they're like us, but not as good.
Yeah.
On that controversial bombshell, first of all, thank you both very, very much. I think just as a non-marcher player, I think what you were just saying there, Marcus, it's really nice to hear players that really love what they do at Empire, and I'm sure people at home will have enjoyed this conversation, because I certainly have.
Oh, thank you very, very much for having us on. It's a bit of a surprise to be asked, but really pleased to come on and chat about it.
Cool. Yeah, it's nice to surprise my victims with this sort of thing. So
it's an honor.
I want to say briefly that the storyline for the intros and outros that you are probably listening to now are set in Breggers Land.
Best land.
Well, I take a little bit of liberty with the world of Empire. So if I have misrepresented anyone in the marches, please don't put a curse on me or murder me. That's OC stuff. And also, could I just say thank you very much to everyone who's listening, but also to our patrons who are continuing to support us during this very long talk. So thank you very much to everyone.
What happened to the door?
Oh, we had an uninvited guest. Sugar?
Please. Your guest made quite the mess.
Ha! Indeed they did. John's going to be furious when he sees the state of the place.
I understand John was a friend of yours?
He still is. From what I've been told, his body still hasn't been found.
Well, that's true, but given the current situation in Two Staff, I think it's safe to assume that he was taken by the creature.
I'd try not to make assumptions. The truth can often be full of surprises. Is it common for properties to be sold so quickly around here?
It is nowadays. Since Mr. Haft arrived in the town, he's been offering to purchase any land he can get his grubby hands on. He's got deeds to half the town.
He's not a local?
By the virtues, no. I think he came from Calavesa.
A Wintermarker? I can't imagine the locals being too pleased to see him throwing his money around.
At first, no, but when the beast started terrorising the town, people were practically giving away their land. There are plenty of exceptions, John being one of them.
And you don't find any of this suspicious?
Some people do. Mr. Half may not be the most popular man, but he is the one who put the bounty up for the creature. He's as keen as anyone in town to see it killed.
Interesting.
Now, I thank you for the tea, but I'm afraid I'm here on official business.
Don't worry, we'll be staying in town from now on.
I appreciate that. If you are struggling to find a place to stay, I would recommend finding the Friar.
Friar Samuel? We actually stayed with him on our first night here.
He's a virtuous chap. While he's still here, I still have faith in the future of this here town.